Hey guys, Unexceptional Rounder here with my first video, No Limit Micro Stakes Cash Games 101 Pre-Flop Play. What I want to talk about is how you can eliminate some of the most frequent and biggest mistakes that I see players making in No Limit Hold'em. If you have a question about anything I discussed during the video, please post it in the comments section and I'll get back to you. Let's get started. 7 easy steps to No Limit Hold'em. These 7 steps are laid out in Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em by Ed Miller. They're a foundation of good play and a great starting place for becoming a winning player. Learning these rules will improve your results and your enjoyment of the game. Many players don't understand why they lose. They tend to blame it on bad luck or bad beats. But the truth is, these players are probably making their mistakes long before the big money goes in the pot. The 2 steps that I want to discuss are playing tight and playing in position. Now let's get into what those actually mean. So what is position? Let's go over some table basics. Looking at this 9-player poker table, starting with the dealer position, it rotates clockwise each hand. Now in order, going around the table clockwise, we have the small blind, the big blind, early position 1, 2, and 3. Early position 1 is sometimes known as under the gun. Then we have middle position 4, middle position 5, the cutoff, and the button. These can also be called positions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You'll hear them called different things, but those are some of the options. Now, we've defined what the positions are. I want to talk about what considerations you should be thinking about when deciding to play or fold your hand from each of them. Traits of early position. In early position, you have a lot of players left to act behind you. Every player except the blinds will have position on you post-flop. There's a much higher probability of somebody having a big hand that's still to act. So in general, we want to play very tight from early position. Traits of middle position. In middle position, you can start to play a few more hands, but we still have 4 or 5 players to get through. So for the most part, we want to play quality hands, and we still want to play tight. Now, late position is where it's at. In late position, that's where we make most of our money. It's where we can play most of our hands. The range you should play will change significantly based on your opponents. The button, being the most profitable and powerful position at the table, is where you're going to play the most hands, and it's where if you want to make a fancy play, you should probably do it from the button. In general, be aggressive and open a lot of hands when you're in late position. Blind play. The blinds are complicated and extremely opponent-based. You are almost always out of position after the flop. It's very hard to make money off of your big hands when you hit because you will not be in position. So in general, play tight. I'll do a whole lesson on blind play in the future, but it's not a 101 level topic. So let's get into some specific hand ranges. Alright, starting hands. I borrowed these hand ranges from No Limits by Chris Fox Wallace. He created the ranges based on professional players' online databases of over 1.5 million hands. I'll quickly discuss the nomenclature for anyone who is unfamiliar with it. 8-8 means any pocket pair 8s or better. 9s, 10s, jacks, kings. Pretty simple. Ace-jack would indicate ace-jack offsuited, ace-queen offsuit, ace-king offsuit. Ace-10 suited. Ace-10 suited includes ace-jack suited, ace-queen suited, ace-king suited. If you see queen-8 suited, that includes every suited queen where the second card is higher than 8. Where you see 8-7 suited, that represents the lowest suited connector you would play. Keep in mind the higher card is always on the left. So these hands are a great starting place for a player looking to improve their game. If you want to know more on this or where he got these ranges, I highly encourage you to pick up the book No Limits. Now, some of you may ask, what if you're not playing 9-handed? It's really easy. You just take away the early position ranges. So if 3 players are missing, or you're playing 6 max, the under the gun range would be the middle position 4 range displayed here. Alright, so now that we know what hands we're going to play, let's talk about how we play them. Bet sizing. In an unopened pot, meaning no one else has put any money in, I will almost always raise if I'm going to play. A good rule is to raise 3.5 times the big blind plus 1 big blind per limper. So in the example here, we're playing 100 no limit with 50-cent $1 blinds. we're in the cutoff, and 2 players limp. Your raise size would be $3.50. That's 3.5 times the big blind, plus $1 or 1 big blind per limp, so $5.50 total. There may be certain situations for limping behind, but I tend to err on the side of aggression and just raise. People won't always just fold before it's your turn to act, so we should probably talk about how to handle things when someone else has opened the pot. So what do we do when we have action in front of us? If we have a strong hand that we were going to open, and someone else raises, the first thing we should do is take note of what position that player is raising from. So for us to call a raise, we should feel that our hand is going to be better than the range of hands they are going to open with. Keep in mind how tight we open from early position and consider whether that person's tighter or looser than we play, and then we can get an idea of what hands they might be opening. There are many other factors to consider when a player opens the pot in front of you, even if you do have a strong hand. You need to consider the range of hands that they are opening with, like we talked about, how your hand does against that range. You should consider your position on the player who opened. You should also think about the type of hand that you have and how that hand will make you money to be profitable. Also consider the players behind you. Are they aggressive? Are they likely to raise? Are they likely to call? Is somebody behind you with position going to call? Are the blinds going to call? Now, what do I mean by what type of hands will make money and how you make money with the hands? On the next slide, I want to talk about some different kinds of hands and how they play. This is something you need to think about before you call. Otherwise, you may be putting yourself in a very tough situation post-flop that could easily have been avoided by just letting your hand go. Alright, types of hands. As this is a 101 level video, I just want to cover the wave top so that you can start thinking about situations better. We can get into some specifics later on. Let's briefly talk about these types of hands and how we can make money with each of them. Monster hands. Aces and kings are pretty easy to play. Usually you just want to raise and play the pot against no more than 1 or 2 opponents. You don't need to be fancy or cute, just get as much as you can into the pot pre-flop. Now, high cards. They're similar to monster hands, except you don't have a made hand yet. Here, you really want to pay attention to your position. If you're out of position, you generally want to try to get the money in pre-flop. This is more so with ace-king than with ace-queen. The real trick is to control the size of the pot after the flop. Many players will make the mistake of going all the way with top pair, top kicker, and end up losing a lot of money. This is a topic we're going to cover a lot in the next video I do, where we talk about pot control. Suited aces and suited connectors. I'm going to lump these in together because they tend to play in a similar way. First, let's talk about how we can make money with these hands. The reason the hands play similar, in my opinion, is that with suited aces, we're not looking for top pair hands. Many players make this mistake. They play ace-x suited. Ace-x suited just means an ace and some other card that is suited. And it ends up costing them a lot of money when they hit top pair. Now, you should know how you can make money before you put it in the pot. With suited aces and suited connectors, the obvious way is to catch a big draw or hand on the flop. But if you play these hands, you have to also be willing to make moves post-flop, because you're rarely going to win on showdown value alone. Unsuited connectors. These are often overvalued by novice players. For the most part, you should treat them as trash. You have to be willing to really make moves post-flop if you want these hands to pay off, because they're rarely going to flop a good hand that you can win at showdown. Now, when I say unsuited connectors, I don't mean ace-king unsuited. I mean 7, 8, 9, 10, hands like that. Alright, to quickly summarize from the top down, monsters and high cards you should try to play against one opponent. Suited aces and connectors are better in a multi-way situation. And you have to be willing to make... To quickly summarize from the top down, monsters and high cards you should try to play against one opponent. Suited aces and suited connectors are much better in multi-way pots, and if you have position. If you're going to play these in a heads-up situation, you need to be willing to make a lot of moves post-flop when you miss. Alright, well that's all the topics for this video. Let's go over what we discussed. Big thing, play very tight in early position. You should start to open up in the cutoff and on the button. And you should play tighter to raises than you would if you were the one opening. The other big thing that I want people to take away from this is to improve your play, you need to notice how your opponents play. And you should start doing that immediately. It's going to really help you with everything you do. Another thing that I didn't actually specifically mention, but kind of implied, is that you should keep your raises standard. Don't raise more with big hands and less with bad hands, and also don't limp into pots. We're playing tight, we're playing aggressive. That's going to do it for this lesson. Please, 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 if you guys have questions, leave them in the comments and I will answer them. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more stuff like this, please go ahead and like it. You can go ahead and follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/urounder, twitter.com/urounder, and twitch.tv/unexceptionalrounder if you want to watch me live stream. The next lesson is going to be No Limit Microstakes Cash Games 102. I'm going to talk about pot control, specifically in small pots. I really hope you guys enjoyed this and have a good day.